Hey everyone, welcome to your daily update for BTC SOL and liquidity and market cap and other things. So it's a weekend day. As such, it's been a little boring really. They're building really just trying to build up that liquidity top and bottom to allow for the moves in the next week. BTC sort of has liquidity sitting up there on the 1 day to about 118. And down to about 112. Sol's looking very interesting. It's built that liquidity quite nicely up to that 112, nearly 113, which is quite an important area. And to the downside, you've got that huge spike there at 192, which just looks a little bit off. It's like, oh, well, they've left that behind. And then all the way down there at 184 as well. But the bulk of it exists between sort of where it is now at about 202 down to about 192. If we look at the 7 day, so still quite even on BTC. So people just can't make up their mind. It's you've got almost as many people long as you do short. It's a perfect situation to do a big sweep and pump. And then on SOL, you've got a bit more available to the downside than the upside, and still seems to have that 212 area as a stopping point. If they went up to the upside, they'd be grabbing pretty much everything if they hit that, and large chunk of liquidity traveling all the way down to that 182 on the 7 day. We look at the 30 day. This really gets a bit weird. So people are very bearish on Bitcoin. The 30 day, there's a lot more liquidity to take to the upside, to the point where whatever comes next, if they do a dip, they're probably then going to go on an absolute short squeeze rampage to the upside. So this is the time frame that really is lining up with all the higher time frame stuff. It's got liquidity down to about 109, 108 area. Certainly plenty to 110, and then you've just got an absolute rampage after that, where you could go up to 120 or all the way through to sort of like 126, 127 to take all the top side. So there's a bit of a gap there, sort of between 112 and 113, 114, where the liquidity is a bit light, and they're probably just trying to get a few more positions to open in that area. But it is well covered off in the lower time frame liquidity, so they're just building cake, as we like to say it. Soon they will be eating. So for SOL, there's liquidity sort of stopping up around, once again, that 113, 114, even on the 30 day. So it just sort of says that something's going to happen. They're going to go to that sort of level, maybe at the top, and then there's going to be some form of rejection. It's just, there isn't really a lot of people shorting it. Everyone's too bullish. If it was to dip, and rightfully so, I mean, the charts have just looked too bullish on it almost. If it was to dip, there's sort of a lot of leverage that starts at about 175 and down. And yeah, maybe those people are going to get a ride, up to the next high. But it just seems a bit fishy. It's just, do they take everything down to 175 and then go, or are they going to actually sweep all that liquidity before they go? Pretty hard to tell. So as far as how it is actually being generated over the weekend, let's show you that. Okay. So they've pretty much just kept BTC sideways whilst building short-term liquidity up to 121. And as you can see, it's just been piling in here now down to about 108. So definitely the chances of it going down there and taking 110 just continue to increase, particularly the more liquidity starts to appear below 110. It means you might actually see it even go down further. SOL, they really brought it up to a higher level, and now they're starting to build top and bottom. So sort of that 212 to 216 sort of area up the top there. But also all of the gaps are starting to fill in on the underside. So for them to do like a dive down, like some big scammy wick down into all that liquidity. They'd sort of want all these empty spaces to be full. But there is short-term liquidity all the way down there at 171, 172, and it's starting to get more dense on the downside. So although the charts look really, really, really bullish, sometimes they're just looking really bullish so that they can create that liquidity to take. So still a little bit on the fence as to whether we get some quote-unquote unexpected announcement and this thing takes a dive, does a sweep, and then they just shoot back up the other way. So structure has got many reasons to go up. 247 is the number with most confluence to the upside as far as a high time frame target, and yet there are still plenty of targets that could play out to the downside. So right, let's have a look at these charts. Okay, so starting with SOLBTC Strength, it is in rejection off the origin level there at 17933. So in the next 2 hours, effectively what we're trying to see is, does the candle come up and close over the top of that, in which case it can then hard close it. Sometimes origin levels just don't need to be hard closed, they just pop. If the candle opens above it, they just test it and just shoot up. Other times, yeah, they spend a bit more time, they hard close and then they go. So the polarizing point today is the 17933. We want to see, does it close above, does it close below? If it closes below, then it will still be, as long as it doesn't go below 17153, it will still be a hard close of the break level down here at 17153 and also the break level at 17073. And it generated a hold level as well that it hasn't had to use, which is down here at 16446. And it will also be a hard close of the break level at 16280. So there will be a lot of places to the downside that it could then trigger a retest. And those retests, it'll actually also be a break of trend. So the trend will shift from here up to the new ladder point there. And it will actually create a downwards channel parallel with the range trend, which will also be a hard close of the range trend to the downside. So if it closes under the origin at 17933, my guess is it goes up, rejects off the relocated trend, and comes down to do these retests, which means you might see an actual drop or decline in the strength of SOL, which then could let it actually go down and take some of those lower levels, even if Bitcoin only drops to say like 110 or 108. So it looks trappy, and my opinion on that will only change if we actually see that wick disappear on the top side of that daily candle. For at the moment, I actually think it does look trappy. Okay, so let's have a look at our strength. So we're below the level, safety assets. We're below the level on the safety assets. And where that, that's a 3 day, so it's got a couple of days to close. I wonder what that looks like on a 1 day. Yeah, so daily candle below the level. So if it doesn't close, so if it closes in distribution, it's a hard close at a level and it's losing it. But if it doesn't, if this closes yellow, then it could just be seen as a deviation of the level and then a move back up to retest the backside of one of these ranges up here. So this we got a daily range in there at 65.32, another one at 65.01. It's died through both of those and it hasn't retested them. So regardless really of how this closes today, it may come back up to do a retest. So if strength drops, this goes up to do a retest, then SOL decides it's going to be a bit of a dog. BTC drops, SOL drops further, so it could happen. Right, total. So it's basically just messing around that downtrend on the daily. So at the moment it's bouncing on it. It's just kind of been doing that now for a wee while. If it closes under that 360 point, it might end up opening on the backside of that trend again, and then it could reject down, so we could see a drop in the total. It actually just really should do that. There's no reason why it didn't hit that trend and reject back to the hold level. So yeah, that looks like it could. So really the polarizing moment on that is about that 360 level. If it ends up opening under that trend, a rejection of the trend, and then a drop back to the 356, 355 level is sort of what I'd be looking for there. Have a look at Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's also just screaming trappiness. So this created this range trend on the 1 day yesterday when it closed into the hold. It hasn't broken the 117,500 break level on the daily range. It did create the hold level down here at 114,201. And so then typically what you would expect is you'd see, and it also wasn't a breakout of the daily range, daily downtrend, because the corner of the candle was on it. So what you'd sort of expect to see after that is you'd expect the next candle to make a choice about, does it go and hit the trend and then go down to the hold, or does it go down to the hold and then go to the trend? It's usually going to be like a case of one of these two moves plays out from close. It either goes up. Let's use the better tool for this. Path tool. Yeah, so it either goes up to the trend, except magnet tool is not your friend when you want to do this. So it either goes up there and then comes down here, or it just chooses to go down first, hits the hold, push me battle with magnet tool, and then comes back up to trend. Okay, so it usually does either up and down or down and up, one or the other. But if we look at this on lower time frame, it's just hovered. So put our vertical line on. That's where our candle opened. It didn't go up to the trend, and it hasn't come down to the hold. It's just sideways. So it looks like it's coming down to the hold, but for some reason it's just taking its time. And I guess that's because they want to try and build all that liquidity to make sure that there's actually something down there worth pushing a position into. So the behavior of it means that if it does come down to these lower levels, they might try to push out a position, which just cascades people's stop losses to then target those lower levels. So it just looks trappy. It's building liquidity. It's only building liquidity because they want to take liquidity. So that's our 1 day. Okay. So then the 5 day. So the 5 day had a range trend that it created through here. It came down, it hit the break, it's gone back up to test the hold, so that's done. That was a trade from the other day. But it looks like it's going to open on the wrong side of the trend. So if this closes where it is now, the next candle opens free of the range trend. So then it could give a bit of a push back up, retest the range trend. It could even sweep it to get some liquidity. And then it will also have generated on this close a 5 day origin level here at 119.811. So if you've been following the videos the last few days, we keep building origin level rejections in the 119 to 120 area on BTC, which makes me wonder whether they're going to take that liquidity to the upside and then dump to the downside, or the other option is whether they just finally they dump, and that could happen by opening this 5 day candle where it is now. It really has to, that whole candle has to retrace back up to 116,228 really to be back in that range. So they could just open this and then drop down to the next trend, which is about 111. And they haven't actually retested that one. Never had a first touch. So that would be the first place for it to go. And then they may sweep that trend for liquidity, which then gets us to those 108 levels, etc., that we've sort of been expecting. 110s and 108s, we just haven't been there yet, and they've just come up too much. And the fact that it's opening on the wrong side of support means it's either going to take the liquidity to the upside and then come down and sell it down into here, or etc., rebuy and push up. So So that's what that's showing us. And the 47-day, which is the only other close today, is showing a retracement back below the resistance topside trend. So this trend up here, once we open below it, we're going to have a hold level at 109,608. So that will get created today. We're already below the trend. If we tap that trend a second time, we'll probably then come back down to that hold. Or if it goes the other way, it opens on the wrong side of this uptrend, which it's also going to do from the looks of that. Just see how that looks on a lower time frame though before we really believe that. Let's see. Oh yeah. Yep, well and truly. Okay. So yeah, it's going to open on the wrong side of the uptrend. It's going to open under the resistance trend, so it hasn't managed to close above it or even open the next candle above it. So this pretty much implies 118 through to 119, 120 area. Rejection could force the price back down to 109 or 108. And it's also implying that if based on one of those other timeframes we do a drop to these levels, then we would target these levels for the longs. So this move, I think, is coming. It's just going to be which way does it go first, and do we catch it, and what's the sentiment like, etc. Because if it goes up first, it'll be really positive sentiment all through crypto Twitter. Everyone will be talking about amazing new highs, etc., etc., and then it will probably reject and go down. If it goes down, everyone will be talking about how Bitcoin's over and everything's going to zero, and then it will likely find support on one of these lower levels, and it will go up. So, and it's got plenty, right? Plenty of support. I mean, I don't think you'll see it come down to these 90 levels, but just bear in mind it can. There are some influencers out there talking about that already, about how you're looking at 98Ks and all that kind of thing. So if we do lose this uptrend, which can only be lost with a hard close, then yes, we go see those 90 something levels. And the final stage of a run, so let's say we do have a final stage of a run and we don't see these 90 levels now, what happens is we bounce off these 109, 108 levels, then we go up, and we'll probably cling to the backside of these trends until we hit the next resistance level, and then it rolls over, because all it takes once you're on the wrong side of a trend is one candle the wrong way to hard close that trend, and then it falls. And that's if we've already bounced off the 109, 108 levels to create that move, then the next candle that closes, the fall level is the 96. That's where it comes back to. So, and it will just start cutting through these trends. And there won't be any other uptrend created if the fall candle closes with a flat bottom. So these are the kind of things we're watching out for if we want to make sure we're out at the top. So that's Bitcoin. Let's have a look at SOL. Okay, a lot of lines on my SOL chart right now. So when SOL pumped up the other day, it pumped up into that origin level at 205, and it hasn't hit the daily break level at 210. It did create a reverse range trend, which it's pulled back in under. So we're looking to see whether SOL closes under 204, 205, that sort of price point, because it'll be on the wrong side of the range trend. Now, SOL is going to move its daily topside trend today, so this is also potential for the trap and the retrace. So if we move our daily range trend to the new candle, then it could go back up to say 108, 109, sorry, 208, 209, sweep through that, hit the break level even, could do any of that in the next day. And whatever that sweep becomes, and there is high time frame resistance at 213 and liquidity on the 30-day up to 213. So if we sweep up to that as, say, a max, but the rejection could come from any of these other levels that it's closing under now, so there's no reason why it has to sweep. In fact, it could just, it literally could just tap 204 point something and then drop again. So the levels that can then support that would be the hard closed break level here at 195.231, And then you've got another break level that becomes hard close down here at 191.243. There is a it's gone. There is a 1 day hold, frontside hold here at 187.855. And then after that, all the other levels are going to be like the break level of the older 1 day range at about 173. And then we start to move into some of those higher time frame levels that are down lower. And they'll have confluence with trends and various other things. But and we know those areas are basically like your 170s down to your 150s. But as far as what can hold this up, any of these daily levels can give it a bounce. Any of them can support it. There's plenty of trends in there. There's plenty of support. So if SOL stays bullish, the retrace could be very small. If SOL flips bearish, then obviously it'll have to take some time, but it would be able to cut through a lot of those levels. So at the moment, I'm really just looking to see how this candle closes, and then whether they pump up into a rejection, or whether they close a day over 206 level here. So what is it? 210, 210.045. If we get a daily hard close over 210.045, then we're leaving this range, and that's what I'm looking at there. And building a position or looking for entries, basically at the retest of this trend, which is sort of like 195, 191, 187, and then after that, if we start to break through all those levels, then yeah, I think some higher time frame thing is kicking in. Maybe the weekly closes or the 3-week closes that we have tomorrow. The resistance that is sitting at 213 is 3-week resistance, which just makes you wonder whether they're just waiting for that new candle tomorrow. See how that plays out. So then on the 5-day, so the polarity for the 5-day is pretty much, does it close over 201.567? So a close over 201.567 would allow for a pretty rapid pump to the upside. It's inside the trend still. You will be above a break level, but not hard closing a break level. And this is where this time frame gets a little bit trappy. Is it might open the new candle above the hold level, it might open it above the downtrend, and it might open it above the uptrend, all of which says bounce. But it's also a 5-day candle. So what it's saying is most likely bounce in 5 days. So, or within 5 days is probably the right way to word this. So if it bounces straight away, it's going to target 149. So that's all within the realms of these 147 horizontal structural targets that have been popping up constantly for the last couple of weeks. But if it doesn't bounce straight away and BTC decides it's going to have its pullback, then the break level at 195 is not hard closed. There is no actual hold level really until you get down to, not on the front side, until you get down to 153. So if they absolutely tank the price, as long as they go down and up in the next 5 days, not only could this thing retrace all the way to 153, but then it could actually spring back up within the 5 days, hard close the area, and then head to 249. So that would be an amazing move to catch if it does that. But it's also a really bad move to enter with your full-size portfolio there at 201 if its intention is to go and grab every piece of liquidity on the board down to 153, which it absolutely could be. So the other side to this is that we just get a really rapid sell down in the next hour and 50 minutes, and that happens sometimes. They keep it looking bullish for as long as possible. to get the most amount of long liquidity to enter the market. And then in the last moments of the candle, they sell it down, they get it under the resistance, and it rejects off the backside of that trend. And then if they really wanted to, they'd bring it down to, say, drop it $10 even in the next 2 hours, some announcement or tweet, and then send it from there, which would be even faster drop. So it could happen. You make these videos 2 hours before close. There's always going to be the one option or the other. But yeah, if you start to see this retracing rapidly, big FUD, something like that, then I'd pay more attention to the daily levels as far as where things could bounce. But just keep in mind that those bounces might not be sustainable bounces, and that you might have something on the higher time frame looking to come down and take all that lower liquidity. So that's what we're seeing on the 5-day, and then the 47-day close today. This looks awesome. I mean, it's come from the wrong side of trend, so it's not going to hard close. It can't. If it comes down and retests that trend, it would be those 150s, which is a very big possibility for when you do this. So say take this candle here, just as a pure example of this. It came all the way up here, it closed, it came back down here, it retested the trend, it bounced to 295. Okay, so that was catching 169 to the 295, to the previous all-time high. So we have come up through this trend. We're creating a hold level, which is better than what we did over here. Okay. Do we come down? Do we test the hold level and bounce? Do we come down? Do we retest the trend and bounce? Our support trend for this time frame is running through even lower, but it's unlikely it will go to that. So this is, I guess, confluence that there could definitely be that liquidity sweep that sort of lines up with the 5-day levels, because they're inside this candle right here. And with that hold level being there, and the fact that this trend is not moving, it means that really you'd have to start to look at the 170s as a starting point for the position, because they may stop the trend retest. But yeah, certainly if it hits those 150s, chances of that thing just flying off there like it has done historically is very, very high. So SOL's looking really bullish. The structure is set up to pump. BTC, the structure is crap. It looks like it wants to dump. And the dump of one might create the liquidity grab of the other, even though it looks so bullish, and then send it up. But that's pretty much a summary of that. And there'll be some bigger closes on the 1 week and 3 week, etc. that'll come tomorrow. And as far as, if I had to say, is there a really dangerous spot for SOL to run into? Running into 213 on the 3 week is a bit of a dangerous spot. It could definitely create the retrace to the 150s. I think I might have that chart. Monthly, 3 week, right? Yep, cool. So the 3 week, it's all about timing. If it just spikes up and hits that 3 week in the next 1 day and 2 hours, anywhere in the next 1 day and 2 hours, if it goes up and hits it, then it can create a bigger retracement. However, actually, it was untested range trend through there too. So that would be your target for that. It'd be like the 150s. The thing is, though, that if it can actually stay over top of the downtrend for this time period, then it's starting with the ability to actually bounce off the backside of the trend. And doing that means you might not see the big retrace that could be created by hitting that level. So yeah, but just note it down that 213.273 is quite a polarizing level. It's also this runner. The range trend was created here. First yellow candle closing into the yellow pole candle. That range trend is literally lining up with that hold level right now. So I think this has got the potential for an Elmo Chaos day where it just hits that and disappears. So, but it all comes down to when they do it. Doing it in the next 26 hours would be almost catastrophic, really, I think. Unless it can hold up there and then get over the top of that trend and give it something. But yeah, this time frame basically shows an unhard closed break levels below here at about 193 and 187, and it hasn't re-hard closed the origin level at 175. So really, if it hits some of that high time frame resistance up there, yeah, a rejection back to the non-retested range trend, which becomes the first thing hard closed in one day, gives you that rejection back to the 150s. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got for you at the moment. Hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea about what I'm looking at. Greediest entries 150s, but you know, you could take off from 201 even. So I did a video the other day on whether or not it's just a good idea to open a swing trade. I'd say looking at today's close, we probably will have a rejection lower than where we are now. So I don't think it's worth opening it just yet. But certainly if we see the 170s, it might be worth opening it as a swing position and then just sizing it up if we go to the 150s, and then running it up to 247, 250 for sort of first TPs. We just need the planets to align and for all these things to actually close in the right places. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Like, subscribe, and yeah, leave some stuff in the comments. It all helps with the algo and gets it out there to more people. But also leave some stuff in the comments about, is there any TA or any little educational videos or anything you want me to put together in my spare time, and because it's hard to know what people want to know. But yep, you tell me, and we'll get them out. Cheers, bye.